Hello listener, welcome to Desert Mamba production, and the show is called Demopolitical Chronicles, whereby today we have something to focus on. Our main topic of discussion today is
how to eradicate tribalism, not just in Kenya, but any other place. You can call me Nyakromasheti. That is who I am.
Okay, talking of tribalism, I know many people out there are asking, what is this tribalism? From a layman's perspective, everyone has got the definition that they would want to give the word tribalism, but let us focus on the dictionary meaning of tribalism. What is tribalism according to the dictionary? Tribalism is the state of being organized by or advocating for tribe or tribes that are within a certain jurisdiction. Then from that, someone might also ask, what is a tribe? Now, from the word tribalism, the main root of that word is tribe. What is tribe? Tribe is a social division in a traditional society consisting of families, communities, as you proceed until you reach the highest hierarchy in a place where people exist. And remember, I'm Brenda Obura. Joining us to help us understand our topic of discussion today is one of our colleagues and a political enthusiast.
Okay, thank you so much, team, for having me. It's a privilege to be on the bench as a colleague and also as kind of a guest. Mm-hmm. My name is Kwach, as many people call me. I'm a political enthusiast, as Nyarobura has just said. And of course, I'm proud to say that when it comes to looking at things the way they are, we talk, of course, personally I talk my mind without any fear of contradiction. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's why we have you on the bench today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And before anything else, our topic of today, as you had said, is eradicating tribalism in Kenya. I've already given the dictionary meaning of tribalism. According to you, what's your definition of tribalism?
Okay, when you talk of tribalism, basically, I think of an organization, mm-hmm. or kind of people who are organized towards a common goal, or towards like organized as a community, because there are so many different forms of tribalism. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's so nice and interesting that I can even tell you that even sportsmanship. Mm-hmm. We can even have one team as a community, and we can refer to them as kind of a tribal thing. Yeah. So when you talk of tribalism, to me, first of all, I look at it both in a positive way, mm-hmm. and in a negative way. So it depends with the context at which you bring it on board.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now for whatever we are talking about, are we trying to eradicate the positive or the negative?
We are trying to eradicate the negative. Mm-hmm. That is now tribalism, that is in line with this is something that affects the development and even the growth of a country, state, or even individual groups. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we are talking about tribalism. And this tribalism thing, it comes from the word tribe. So does it mean that this thing is based on tribes?
Okay, I think the one we are referring to right now, the one we are trying to eradicate, mm-hmm. is based on tribes or tribal line, and also based on, let me call it ethnicity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ethnicity and something that we do that is kind of negative, that instead of building us up as a community, mm-hmm. or as a people, it ends up draining us or dragging us behind.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. And talking about tribalism now, well, I was born, personally I was born, and I found this thing,
yes.
Tribalism.
Yeah.
So does it mean that it is something that started way back before I was born? Or, well, the fact that I said that I found it means that it started way back before I was born.
Yeah.
So when did this thing start and why? Or how?
Okay.
Yes.
I think when we look at tribalism, we can date it back to... Actually, initially it was not there. Because we had communities living. For example, we had the Western communities. That is where we have now the Luo community, the Luya community, the Kalenjin community, the Kisii community, and the communities around the western part of Kenya. They were coexisting peacefully without the so-called tribalism. And of course they had their own distinct features when it comes to culture. That is now language, custom and beliefs, among other things. They didn't even know that there existed people, like, for example, those from the mountain region, like the Kikuyu, Meru, Embu. So there was nothing much. There were no clashes.
That is just to mention a few.
Yes, just to mention a few.
Yeah.
So there was nothing much or no more clashes along tribal lines, aside a few things that maybe could make these communities, most of those who are staying just close to each other, like maybe fight for water, pasture, a few things. Like there was nothing tribal.
Okay, so does it mean that during that time of which, let's say it's unknown for now because you haven't given us a specific time, can you say that the only thing that was causing, should I call them feuds or chaos or what, name them, was only these maybe boundaries, territories, or maybe the grazing land or something?
Yeah, basically it was pasture, water, and land, because communities kept growing, people kept giving birth, and so people wanted more land. So maybe people could only fight to get more land. People could fight maybe as cattle rustling. Yeah. So there was nothing much tribal. Yeah, people lived together. Of course, different communities, they could speak their own language, perform and live within their own cultures and beliefs. This is now before the coming of the white man, before colonization. So when now the white man came, like let's say when now the colonization was in progress. Because of course Kenya was colonized by the British.
Sure.
So when the British came, they ensured that they used what is known as a divide and rule tactic.
So does it mean that is where tribalism started coming in?
Yeah, because that is now where now people started knowing. Okay, now then now because I am a Luo, for example, then I need to fight against this specific community, let's say maybe Kalenjin, because of the reasons the colonial team gave us. So they were trying to divide us along the tribal line just to find the easiest way to penetrate and occupy our land. So it is actually through the colonial government or the British that the tribalism started. Yeah, that is when now communities started fighting. And this fighting actually grew, and it came all the way even to now when Kenya was gaining independence. So it is only when the Kenya was gaining independence that we were kind of a bit united, because we were fighting for a common goal. We were fighting to gain back our land. So that is when you get, because even if you look at the faces of the leaders who planned or organized for the freedom fighting, for the freedom fights, you will see the face of the whole country. Actually, you'll see from the central Kenya, the mountain region, we'll have people like Dedan Kimathi, we have people like the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Of course, from the coast, we have people like Ngala, From the Luo land, we have people like Achieng Oneko, Oginga Odinga. So like we have, among others, we have like now the face of the whole country. And then of course we now have people who fought within the bushes. Yeah. So when we were now fighting for independence, that is when we kind of forgot about the tribal thing that was brought about by the British government, because we were now fighting them together as a people trying to gain independence. So when we got independence, we were kind of a bit united. Yeah.
Now, after getting independence, there was some aspect of cohesion. What triggered tribalism? Because you see, during when we were fighting for independence, people were together because they wanted to chase away the white man.
Yeah.
Now, what brought it back?
Okay. In as much as we got independence when we were a bit united, it doesn't mean we were that united. Remember, the tribalism thing had entered our minds.
Yeah.
And basically, when you look at during the fights for independence, we had two political parties. So we had KANU, that was dominated by the two major communities then. That was the Kikuyu community and the Luo community. And then we had KADU. KANU was the Kenya African...
KADU.
The KANU.
KANU.
Yes. Kenya African National
Union.
Union.
Yeah.
And then we had KADU. The Kenya African Democratic
Union.
Yeah. So the KADU was made of the communities that felt inferior. Yeah. The small communities.
That is the KADU.
That is now who made KADU. And then KANU was made of the two major communities, that is the Luo and the Kikuyu. So KADU was being formed because the other communities were feeling maybe the Luo and the Kikuyu, who are the major tribes then, could maybe intimidate them, or maybe like not make them form part of the government.
Talking of this, so do you mean that by the time these parties, the political parties, the KADU and the KANU are being formed, do you mean that at this time already the tribalism thing had started manifesting? Because I don't understand when you say that the KADU, the guys in KADU, the Kikuyus and Luos were in KANU. Yeah. So the KADU guys, these people, the communities that formed the KADU, they felt like
they were left
they
out.
Were inferiority, something of the sort.
Yeah.
So, do you mean that at this point that they were forming this the parties, does it mean that the tribalism thing had started manifesting?
Yeah, of course. I started by saying that before the coming of the white man, there was nothing like tribalism. Yeah, people lived happily in their lands, and we could only fight for a few things that we have mentioned. But now with the coming of the white man, with their game of divide and rule, now we started fighting along tribal line. So even when we were now fighting for independence, because we were now united only because we are fighting towards a common goal. But of course, we even know that once we get this, whatever we are fighting for, then it means the majority might end up making us feel inferior. So then we need to also just prepare ourselves to jipange vizuri so that we also get our fair share. Yeah. So that is why KADU was also formed.
But then again, before independence, we also had the missionaries, right? And these missionaries, I normally believe that they also came from, you see, these colonizers and the missionaries. I do believe that they have same origin. I mean, does it mean that the missionaries were not uniting, were not playing that role of uniting us?
Okay.
And if they were uniting us, then why is it that we were so much divided and they were also there trying to unite us?
Okay. On my own opinion, I think the missionaries, majority or most of them, were not of goodwill.
The majority of the missionaries.
Yes. Because in the first place, Africans, we used to also worship.
Sure.
We had our places of worship, we had our divine leaders, and of course, when we prayed, our prayers were being answered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is only that every community believed in their own God.
Sure.
But every community, when they prayed their own way, we were being answered. So when the missionaries came, they came with Christianity. Yeah. Because Christianity was so promising that so many people saw light through Christianity.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But now, as Kwach now, yeah, who is Kenyan, who is African, I believe that Christianity was a way of playing around with the minds of Africans. Reason being, when even you today, if you want to come invade my house, you won't come already charged. You are ready to fight.
I must have.
You must have a way of coming in.
Some tactics.
Yeah. So I believe the missionaries were just clearing the way, the same way the Bible they came with has John the Baptist, who cleared the way for Christ. Yeah. So I believe the missionaries were clearing the way for the colonizers, who then would now follow and now take over once the missionaries have neutralized the ground. So the ground is not hostile.
Okay.
So even when now, because remember, if these missionaries were of goodwill, Africans, after being colonized, we had our own schools. Yeah?
Sure.
Like they ensured we have our own schools, and we were being taught our own lessons that ensured we are only a kind of a class that work for them. Yeah, we are not innovators. We can't do our own things. And then they also have their own courses and classes. Yeah. So if they were human enough, then they could even be speaking against these things. So to come back to the topic, you realize that even with the missionaries in, because it is a process. I've told you, one day I'll give you that story, like now what I believe in.
I would really like to hear that.
So I've told you, I believe that the missionaries came in to just clear the way so that these other people, the colonizers could now come in and now start ruling us. Yeah. So when now KANU and KADU was formed when fighting the colonial government, you remember, actually KADU, they wanted a majimbo kind of system of governance. This is a federal way that you find that the powers are devolved.
Majimbo.
Yes. Because they knew
is
that...
it a Swahili word?
Yes, it is a Swahili word.
Okay.
How did they come up with this word, majimbo?
Of course, majimbo, in other words, majimbo is kind of counties or like units. Units.
So these units, were they being formed among the... I don't know whether you call them as... Should I say small tribes? Someone will get offended.
Of course, even today...
These other tribes, how should we call them? Because you've said by then we had two main tribes. That is the Luo and the Kikuyu. Yeah. How do we refer to these other tribes so that someone outside there is not offended?
Okay, they saw themselves as inferior because they believed they had small numbers.
Okay.
Yeah? So Majimbo also existed even in the areas where now the tribes that were seen as if they are the major also came from. Yeah? So Majimbo is just kind of units.
Yeah.
Kama sahi we can talk of counties.
Okay.
So Majimboism.
And you said who initiated this?
KADU.
The KADU.
Because they felt this was the only way that they could have a government,
a fair share of it.
Yes, a fair share of it that works for everybody. Yeah. But of course KANU won, and when KANU now made like now formed the government, they went for a unitary kind of system that now had one national government.
So you mean, okay, why did they form these parties? Because does it mean that they contested in a presidential whatever?
Not really. They really didn't contest because when fighting the colonial government, there was a government.
Yeah,
in
they were
place.
united.
Yeah? But then they were united.
Yes.
It is only that. You know, having even the two parties now, it came a long way because initially you could not even form a political party.
Exactly.
If you formed a political party, then you were seen as an enemy of the colonial government. So they tried playing games. They could even form associations. To them, it was political party, but the image they gave out there was kind of an association that was just championing for rights. So then forming now the two parties, you know, in any state or any even a community, you find that there must be leadership. And then leadership, when it comes now to the political field, it must come with the kind of a political union. So that is why they had now these political parties. But then the major union or the two unions we had was the KANU and the KADU. It doesn't mean there were no other unions. So the KANU, as I've said, was made of majorly the Luo and the Kikuyu who were the major.
And what was the main aim for the formation of KANU? You've really stressed on the main aim of the formation of KADU, but not KANU.
Okay, KANU was formed with the same mindset of forming government, ensuring that Africans, like Kenyans, could live themselves. The same thing with KADU, though now KADU are feeling if they become part of KANU, then they could disappear in between.
They wanted to do away with the inferiority complex.
Yes. But then, you see now, immediately after independence, in as much as we were kind of united, even the marriage between the Luo and the Kikuyu, who were seen as the major tribes who formed the KANU, did not last for long. It only took a short while because once they had formed government, of course the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, was a Kikuyu. Then the vice president, the very first, was Jaramogi, who was a Luo. But then this union was not long-lived because, there were ideological differences that we know exist in any other place where people are. But the main issues here that we just need to speak up is that we realize that those in power, more so now the president and his people, ensured they kind of valued their kinsmen, so that most of the resources, most of government goodies
were directed to
their kinsmen. Then also you realize that even development kind of most of these things were being taken to, and even when it comes to employment and giving like people now job opportunities, people they could prefer, they better give somebody who is under qualified, but they come from their region, other than giving it to somebody who is qualified and they don't come from their tribe. So this ended up escalating issues, and so the founding father and the deputy, they disagreed, and of course the vice president was pushed out. The deputy president, vice president, was pushed out of the government.
But then before the prime minister, was he the prime minister?
Prime minister came later, a bit later.
No.
Who? Oh, those days.
The Luo guy. Before he was pushed out, they were working together. And then you said that many of the resources were directed to the kingsmen from the other side. Why? What was his role? He could not speak up for his tribe.
When he complained.
And then again, before you answer that, maybe you are going to join the two questions. You've talked well about the KADU and the KANU, and the president and the vice president. Now I'm trying to wonder, why is it that, again, during those days, we did have assassinations? You understand?
Yeah.
We did have assassinations, but then Okay, why the assassinations?
Okay, those assassinations, most of them were political. So let me start with Brenda's question. Actually, the first prime minister we ever had was Jomo Kenyatta.
Sure.
Because that was when we gained independence, but we were not yet a republic.
So we never had president.
No, he was prime minister, and that is 1963. Yeah. That we gained independence.
Yeah.
So 1964, when we now became a republic, he now became the president.
Yeah.
So when he became the president, now Oginga Odinga was now the vice president. Remember, Oginga Odinga was given the chance to form government when Jomo Kenyatta and the other five guys were in Kapenguria. Yeah, they were detained. Yeah, but then Oginga Odinga said, no. In fact, Uhuru, the Swahili translates to "Hakuna Uhuru bila Kenyatta." Yeah, so Uhuru.
So who came up with that slogan?
Of course, politicians, they are very funny people. Coming up with slogans, it's not a big deal to them. So the vice president and his team, when they complained of what was going on, they were being intimidated. And of course, that is now even point at which now he was being pushed out of the government. Yeah, so he was pushed out of the government and detained.
No Uhuru, no
Kenyatta. No Kenyatta,
no Uhuru.
Yeah. So he declined to form government when Kenyatta and the other five, like the Kapenguria 6, had not been released.
So why were they being pushed to form a government without the other five?
I'm not quite sure, but maybe the white men maybe had seen this team as a good team that could form government. But then, of course, I've told you there was that kind of unity. So they wanted everybody to be back. So they would form one government as a people.
But then, before he declined forming a government, did he see some signs of being left out?
Not really. They were buddies. They were very good friends. You were fighting together. You were leading teams together. But now, after forming government, this is now where issues started coming in. Yeah. So after being pushed out and being detained, things started being worse, but were still manageable. Yeah. Remember, this is now the marriage between Kikuyu and Luo. Yeah. It has not lasted for long. So, like the vice president, who is a Luo, has been pushed out. He even had to now resign. Yeah. Then because like every region now brought a vice president. So we had several vice presidents. So he felt like he is there working like just with a title, getting salary from the taxpayers' money. With no work,
but not serving the people.
Not serving the people. So he resigned, and then after that he was even detained. Now
after he resigned.
Yes, after now he was being pushed out. He resigned. Said then he was now detained. Now what now made things worse is when the only remaining minister, like the only Luo who was in the government as the minister, this is Tom Mboya, was assassinated.
All right.
Yeah. And Luos believed that government had a hand in it, and of course the government was headed by Kikuyu.
By Kikuyu.
So that is where now the war between the Kikuyu and the Luo started. Yeah. So it went and it has kept escalating, depending on who comes in as the kingpin. Yeah.
Now, talking of kingpin, we do have kingpins.
Yes.
Still on the tribal lines, you'll realize that each and every tribe, hitherto, they do have their kingpins.
Yes.
When you go to a certain tribe, you'll find a kingpin. Going to another tribe, you find a kingpin. So, does this one try to... is it in any way trying to propagate the tribalism? Having kingpins?
Not really. I see nothing wrong with having kingpins, because it's just the normal way, like any other group could have a leader. So it is just having a leader that leads a specific community.
All right.
Yeah. So the only problem is that these politicians use that as an advantage, and they ride over people, and then end up misusing the powers they have as the kingpins. Yeah. But if they were people of goodwill, then you'd realize that we would be living in a very good world.
Yeah.
And then you find that most of the political parties in Kenya, they are based tribal based. So you find that I don't know whether it used to happen in the older days, but nowadays you find that their financials, the chief financials, are these kingpins, these people with big names, these tycoons. Was that the case in the older days?
Okay, when Kanu formed government, it reached a point where now they decided that they don't want to see any other political party.
That is Kanu.
Yes, they don't want to see any other political party.
But why?
So Kenya went into, of course, they did what competition. Yeah. So Kenya went into a one-party state. So one-party state ruled, and you know, with one-party state, it means democracy is kind of questionable.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody who can put these people into account.
Yeah, because
like
I was just about to ask you, we did have a Kadu, and the D in the Kadu.
All those were banned. Of course, these leaders now had to partner with those in government. So Kiswahili says walimezwa na the party that now forms the government. Yes. Some of them went, of course, you know, with politics. Some are bought. Some are forced.
What do you mean by some are bought?
Of course, they are politicians. I can even say majority. They don't have a stand. They are kind of in business. Yeah. So they are easily bought. Like you are given some token to support a cause. You are given some amount to support a cause. So once the Kenya was a one-party state, so it was hectic because whether there's dictatorship, whether like any kind of ruling now, it is that party that decides what is happening. So for this one-party state to end, people had to now fight for it again. People had to fight for freedom again, and we had people now fought for multi-party democracy.
And this is not the reign of Jomo Kenyatta.
No, okay. It started with Jomo, came through to Moi, the late President Mzee Moi, and then now. So it is during Moi's regime that now there was now fight for multi-party democracy, and then.
Speaking about democracy, you said that tribalism kills democracy. I hope the statement is true.
Yes.
But then, do we have democracy in Kenya right now?
I think I'll say yes and no.
Democracy and tribalism, can they coexist?
Okay. I started by saying tribalism is both positive and negative.
Yeah.
So if we are kind of we are talking about tribalism, that we are advocating for our culture, we are advocating for our rights, we are developing where we are, and we are supporting each other, then it coexists very well with democracy. But when we talk of now tribalism, whereby we now feel more superior than the other people, or we just want to ensure that it is us who matter, we don't even care about what other people feel or think, then it cannot coexist. So when I talk of multi-party democracy, when now we go to multi-party democracy, I think it has also played a role in increasing tribalism. Yeah, because with the coming of multi-party, we now have, today if you look around, you realize that we even have several parties that are aligned along tribes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, almost all.
Yeah. Almost. Of course, I'll say it's a fact that even let's even start with the ruling party today,
sure.
the UDA. In as much as it has the national look, it is so much aligned with the Kalenjin community. Even ODM, in as much as it has a national look, it is so much aligned along the Luo tribe. Wiper, national look, but aligned toward the Kamba tribe. So there are so many. And it's even funny that today others are even coming in that my friend, the late Jeno Kajuang, could call them village parties. Yeah. So with the coming of multi-party, we now have tribal politics. We have tribal politics, and of course we have tribal parties. So that in Kenya today, our elections, be it the presidential, be it a member of county assembly, member of parliament,
from up
like any position,
down.
all the 6 positions, people vote along their tribes.
Sometimes I do hear 6 piece.
6 piece.
Is it true that with what you've said, that these kingpins, like for example, you said UDA, ODM, you find that UDA is mostly associated with President William Ruto, then ODM is associated with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Does it mean, meaning they are the kingpins, right? Does it mean that they have some influence in electing these other people in the other position on the ground?
The other piece.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
of course, once you believe in a leader or trust in a leader, then you tend to also trust that what they tell you or the direction they give you is the right one. Yeah. So that is why you get that even today, it becomes so difficult. It is possible, yes, but it is so difficult to win an elective position in the backyard of the so-called kingpins without their support. Yeah. There are people who make it. There are people who make it, but there are very few. Yeah. But then the moment the kingpin from supports you, you'll easily win from there. You'll easily win from their backyards. Yeah. So I think, and again, you realize that most of these people, they align themselves so much with their tribesmen. So that you realize that for me to support Charles or Nyakwar Masheti here, then he must come from my tribe. So that the only point I feel...
As the kingpin.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the only point I feel comfortable supporting Nyakwar Masheti, if he is not from my tribe, is that I want him to be kind of a representative of my party from where he comes from.
Okay, and why do you think, if not all, then a bigger percentage of Kenyans, they vote on tribal basis? Is there any hidden thing behind voting on a tribal basis?
Okay. Today in Kenya, we tend to believe that when you're in the government, it is your time to eat.
To eat?
Yes.
What
eat.
do you mean by...
Like now to get the goodies from the
to enjoy?
Yes. Because as a matter of fact...
And what is this you enjoy? Because I will...
there is something sweet that comes with leadership.
This something sweet, it makes me get curious. I need to know what is this they are going to eat, because they have not employed themselves. You understand?
Yes.
They have been employed by the people, by the citizens.
Yes.
So what is this thing they are going to eat? Because it is the taxpayers' money you are talking about, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So what do you mean by it is their time to eat?
Okay. I'll mention just a few.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll mention just a few, not all. Number one, when whoever is in government, as it has happened since independence, you realize that when it comes to giving job opportunities, like hiring, they tend to, it is even better they hire somebody who is unqualified, and leave that person who is qualified, just because whoever they're hiring comes from their tribe, and leave that person who is qualified who comes from a different tribe.
Is that not called corruption?
Of course, it's corruption. It's corruption, yes.
But there is
More
a
of
way in which
meritocracy
they
as well.
cover it, they sugarcoat it.
Of course, you'll hear the leader say that is there a problem if maybe, for example, let's say today you're maybe the president, and then you've decided to hire Nyakwar Masheti.
Because he's my friend.
Yes.
What are friends for? Is it bad?
It's true, people, of course, they reward loyalists.
Yeah.
Yes.
They reward their tribesmen, as I've said. And, I was giving an example. You're the president, and you decided to hire Nyakwar Masheti. Nyakwar Masheti here, with his background, you've decided now to take Nyakwar Masheti to maybe Ministry of Finance. Yeah, that is not his profession.
And don't say that I don't know finance.
Yeah. So just giving an example. When you are asked why you are doing that, then you say, is it a problem that I've hired Nyakwar Masheti because he's qualified? It doesn't mean I can't hire him because he comes from my tribe. So you realize maybe 80% of those who form the government come from your tribe.
Yeah.
You get? So when I say eating again, when it comes to development, like giving out resources for development, you realize that those in government tend to so much like or take so many things to their backyards. Yeah. So when it comes to infrastructure, and if you think I'm lying, you can look at regions that have never been to government, like kind of president, and then compare them to the regions that have enjoyed the presidency. You realize that I'm saying the truth.
But then,
that's true.
I don't know what aspect of development or what you're talking about, because you find that it is being said, though I haven't gotten a chance to walk there and at least have some evidence. The longest serving president in the Republic of Kenya, that is Daniel Arap Moi, the late. He comes from somewhere, and from what I've heard, people are saying it's not that developed. And yet you say when you are there as the leader, you tend to take most of the resources, you channel them to where you come from. What happened?
Today, I'll not answer directly, but what I'll tell you is today, you can have the opportunity to fish. Yeah? You have the net, others have what you call it in your French, like low, I don't know how you call it.
The fishing rod.
Yes, the rod. Others will even have the boat. Yeah.
And
But
you can
then
even have the baits.
you can even have the baits. And you can even give all of this to a specific group and tell them now be fishing and then bring this fish.
And
to the
not
market.
everyone knows how to fish.
Yeah. So the moment you give these things to them, they might end up misusing them. So you'll realize that these regions, if you look at the infrastructure, let's talk of roads.
Yeah.
They have good roads compared to other regions. So it depends with how they've decided to use them. Again, we talk of aside development and aside hiring when it comes to jobs. People feel when you have power, you are safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How?
When you have power, you are safe. When you have power, your things are secure. So like today, umefika hapa nje umeshikwa. And you're like, I can just call Kwach.
Yeah, just
Tell
a phone
Kwach.
call away.
Yeah.
That can make me misbehave.
Yeah. So other people even end up covering up so many things that they work on. I told you I won't really mention everything because I know we'll still have kind of these conversations. But you also realize that regions that are not in government, they might even have so much resources that can be used to generate income or generate revenue. But these resources are being underutilized. And the regions that maybe have their main people running the government, they have now their resources being utilized.
Okay, I want to speak with facts. Like, do you have any instance where there is a place with resources that are underutilized?